There is a sound that stops you cold in the street. Not because it's perfect and it's boring you to the bone. Now picture a different sound, cracked, shaking, almost falling apart, and you cannot move your feet. Spanish poets had a word for that second sound. They called it duende, and tonight I'll show you exactly how to find it. This is Nia. She practices 4 hours before the sun even rises. Every note lands exactly where it should. Her scales are flawless. Her timing never slips, not once. And every evening she plays on the same corner, for the same small, polite crowd. They clap, they nod, a few coins fall in, then they walk away and forget her by the time they're home. Nia doesn't understand why. She is technically better than almost anyone else on this street. So why does no one remember her the next morning? Something is missing. Something she can't practice her way into. That night, as Nia sleeps, a small spark drifts through her window. This is the Muse. She doesn't teach skill. She gives ideas a melody from nowhere, a story seed, a flash of what if. The Muse plants the seed and leaves. She never stays to help you grow it. That part is someone else's job. Enter the angel. Quiet, steady, almost businesslike. The angel is the one who gave you your good ear, your steady hand, your sense of rhythm, before you were even old enough to choose it. Talent. Craft. Grace, some called it. The angel is generous, but the angel is also completely safe. And that is exactly the problem. Because the Muse gives ideas. The angel gives skill. But neither one of them can make a room go silent. Neither one can make a stranger cry over a stranger's song. For that, you need the third spirit. The dark one. The one that doesn't come from the sky, but rises up through the soles of your feet. Duende. And here is the part almost no one wants to hear. You cannot invite Duende the way you invite the Muse or the angel. Duende only shows up when you are close to losing something, close to failing in front of everyone, close to breaking. The old poet said it plainly, you only meet Duende by facing real death, or something close enough to feel like it. The singer whose voice cracks mid-line isn't failing. He's finally telling the truth. The poet whose lines feel almost too hot to hold isn't performing anymore. He's bleeding on the page. That's Duende. It cannot be faked, rehearsed, or performed safely from a distance. It has to cost you something real. Nia isn't the first person to notice this pull between safety and danger. Decades ago, a philosopher looked at the same tension and gave it 2 names instead of 3. He called them Apollo and Dionysus. Apollo is the god of form. Clean lines, careful structure, the beautiful, controlled dream. Apollo is a sculptor standing back from his work, admiring its balance. Apollo never breaks a sweat. And Dionysus? Dionysus is the god of wine, music, and ecstasy. He doesn't admire the statue. He tears the tidy self apart and drags you down into something older, wilder, and far less polished. And here's the part that matters most. Perfection is Apollo's work. It's admirable, it's respectable, and it is completely safe. Dionysus, on the other hand, brings out the beast in you, and once an audience sees that beast, even once, they never quite forget it. That's the same fire Lorca called Duende, just wearing a different mask. Same demand, bleed a little or be forgotten by morning. The next evening, Nia goes back to her corner. But tonight, something's different. Her hands are shaking, and not from cold. A bigger crowd has gathered tonight, pulled in by a nearby festival. More eyes than she's ever played for. Enough eyes to actually lose something if she fails. She could play it safe. The scales she's played 1,000 times. Polished, admirable, forgettable. Or she could risk the piece she's never dared perform in public, one she wrote herself, about losing her mother. She has never played it for anyone. It could fall apart completely. It could embarrass her in front of this entire crowd. That is exactly the point. She lifts the bow, and she begins to play. The first note cracks. Actually, cracks off pitch, raw. Nothing like her usual precision. For one terrifying second, she almost stops. But she doesn't. She leans into the crack instead of away from it. And something in the crowd goes completely still. No one is checking their phone anymore. A few people are openly crying, and they don't know exactly why. The shadow at Nia's feet rises up her whole body, and for the length of one song, she is not performing anymore. She's telling the truth. The next morning, Nia walks the same street. Nobody claps for a memory, but a woman stops her anyway, tells her she hasn't stopped thinking about last night's song. That never happened after the polished nights. Perfection got polite applause and total silence by morning. The crack got remembered. So here's the actual lesson. Not just for musicians, but for anyone making anything. The Muse will hand you the idea for free. The angel will sharpen your skill if you put in the hours. But the part people actually remember, the part that outlives the evening, only shows up when you risk something real. Not recklessly, not for show, but honestly enough that failure is actually possible. That's the price of admission for the third spirit. Because the Muse can find you anywhere, and the angel can train anyone. But Duende only meets the ones willing to bleed a little. So the next time you play it safe, ask yourself honestly, is that perfection, or is that fear wearing perfection's mask? If this one hit different, subscribe. The next one might be the story that finally makes you brave enough to play the piece you've been hiding.